We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. We have 5 people here. We do not have minutes. Is that right, Jane?
That's correct.
Okay. And we're also just to address the really tragic passing of Kevin. Jane, I know you want to address that in your remarks, but I just want to acknowledge that as a board, in that we were really grateful to his service. Jane has sent condolences to the family on our behalf. And so, so I just want to acknowledge that in the really very sad circumstances. So, yeah. So we're not doing a financial report this month because of the transition in the controller's office. That's the next thing on the agenda. So normally we would not skip a financial report at any of these board meetings, but it really is a difficult time for them and will be a delay. And I know, Jane, you'll speak to that in the transition there. So I'll just move on to the director's report.
Okay, great. Thanks, Karen. Yeah, and just to emphasize what Karen said, we were just completely surprised at the loss of Kevin, which I think, you know, we really feel in the BUEA specifically because we have worked with him, me personally, Larry personally, but this board collectively has worked really closely with Kevin as he, you know, reorganized our finances over the past year. And I'm sorry that he doesn't get to continue to pursue that with us, and just sorry for such a tragic loss. In a year of loss, it's especially devastating to lose someone to an accident in this way. So we send our condolences to his children and family. So shall I do the director's report?
Sure, yeah.
For the director's report today, we are skipping the finances. We didn't pay too many things out this month. We processed contracts for all the most recent round of arts grants and are beginning to fund those grants. That will probably happen in a lump, so in the next week. So I think for April, we'll review February and March finances, and we will see a lot of activity in that window. I met with Alex, Larry, Jeff Underwood, and Jeff McMillan to discuss how we will proceed in Kevin's absence. And Jeff Underwood will take the BUEA's finances back over again in the interim, and they will, you know, eventually pursue their hiring of a new person for this role. But in the meantime, Jeff will take care of it, and he thinks Kevin did a really excellent job getting everything in order. And so he doesn't anticipate any issues going forward. The next, aside from the funding all the individual arts grants, the next big financial thing is the receipt of easement payments. So we'll be doing that through QuickBooks receivables. Jeff said he would be able to expand the receivables so that if the board does have questions about those, we can go through them individually. So any questions about that?
Okay, thank you, Jane. I do want to just back up. Also, I meant to address, and I forgot at the beginning, that Julie Dunham is still out on medical leave. She continues to improve. We anticipate her returning, but that's why she's not here today. So I'll continue to fill in for her until she returns, and we would look for that to happen soon. So we all wish her the best on her recovery. So yeah, we could move on unless I don't think there were any questions following your report. I didn't see any. We can move on to new business. So updates to the bylaws.
This is something that we've been discussing for quite some time. We kind of just looking at in terms of, you know, there are other things that we needed to modernize for the BUA's bylaws to bring them into the sameness with the Indiana code and some just updated measures. So after that review, basically recommend 3 particular amendments to the bylaws just as cleanup matters. The first one is just updating the code section reference. So this section of the code dealing with urban enterprise associations was recodified. Thank you. Was recodified from Title 4 to Title 5, as you see there. So basically just point number one is a simple, just moving over the references, or just adding an amendment to say, you know, you have all the powers that are listed under Title 5, Chapter 28 of Indiana law. The second one is to amend Article 6 of the bylaws. And this has to do with the members. So the bylaws were created at a time when BUEAs were allowed, or UEAs were allowed 11 members. Since an additional member was added and some language was changed in the law, and to make it 12 total members. So 2 of those members are gubernatorial appointees. And the language there was changed just slightly from being a representative of the Department of Commerce, to actually being a representative from IEDC, the Indiana Economic Development Corporation. Still a part of the Indiana Department of Commerce. Usually the head of IEDC is also the Secretary of Commerce for the state of Indiana. And we have not, in my time here, had an appointment from the governor for either of those 2 positions, but just as a way of just making sure the bylaws reflect that language change. More substantially, there was a position added to make the 12 members. If you could scroll down just a little bit, Jane, to the next one. There we go. So the one that was added was to have a representative organized labor. Of course, we've complied with this all along. It just wasn't reflected in the bylaws. So essentially, this would be just an amendment to add this subpoint E to reflect that there are now 12 members that are able to be appointed to the UEA. And I think that that's pretty straightforward. That would mirror exactly the code, and everything else in the bylaws and in the statute mirrors each other as it is. So everything in black here that's not in red, the language is the same and it remains unchanged. And if we could go to the final point, the final change that I recommend, and this one is going to deal with a little bit of scheduling because of the General Assembly right now, is electronic meetings going forward. So previously, before the pandemic, the law was essentially political subdivision boards and commissions, such as which the UEA technically fits under, even though it's organized as a nonprofit. You could make rules and regulations to allow participation electronically in the meetings. However, those people who participate electronically could not vote on final matters. Currently, the General Assembly is considering updating this law to allow for, as we're doing here under the governor's emergency orders, to allow everybody to participate electronically and be able to vote. So my third proposed recommendation is to add a policy for electronic participation in meetings, so that going forward we can adopt kind of a hybrid model, especially with this particular board. I think that flexibility will help everyone who's very busy working in the community, to allow you maximum flexibility to participate in these meetings. However, we do need to wait and see what the landscape will look like from the General Assembly. So that kind of brings me to the final point, which is the scheduling consideration, which is what I consider is I'll draft language, very specific language as the amendments, so that you all have a chance to debate them, to look at them, to give me feedback on what you would like, and we would consider those at the next meeting. And then the final vote will be May 12th, that May 12th meeting. And the reason for that is that way, that's after the General Assembly session, so we should have concrete knowledge of what the General Assembly wants to do with these electronic meetings. It seems like a no-brainer, but we have several people in the Indiana General Assembly that like to think things through a little extra bit, and sometimes not in the way that we always anticipate. So those are my recommendations. Those 3 changes are really what's needed in terms of the bare bones changes that we should make.
Thanks, Larry. So just to confirm, you will be coming back to the April 14th meeting with these same changes we see before us today, unless someone would like to amend those. Plus, you'll add in this change around electronic meetings and present all of that again in April.
Yeah, so what I would do is have the form that it would go into as formal amendments to the bylaws. So that's the language that you would see.
Great, thank you. Are there questions from Oh, sorry, I had one more question. I'm just going to ask this. So you're saying in terms of the membership, Jane, if you go up, I think to page 2, we are currently in compliance with all of these membership requirements. Is that correct in terms of the types of members?
That's correct.
Okay.
And I will just as a note, so comparing the Bloomington UEA to everybody else, the BUEA to other UEAs, a lot of people have updated their bylaws. So a lot of people had this similar thing in their bylaws, but everybody's complying with the statute for the most part.
Okay, but we have the correct membership. That's what I'm
That's
asking.
correct. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Are there questions from other board members about this? Okay, I don't, yep.
How about E, one representative organized labor from the building trades that represent construction workers added as a new member? I got
think-
it during his presentation, so I wasn't clear on that.
Yeah. So from the time that the BUEA was organized, originally incorporated, until now, that was a change that was added in. We have that position. We have that position on the board. It's just that that's not reflected in the bylaws. So all this is to make sure that that position, the representative of organized labor, is reflected in the bylaws.
Okay, because I'm a labor rep. I just wondered if you was wanting another besides me or what.
No, you are that seat, actually. Yeah, you are our compliance with the statute.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Jackie. Anyone else have questions for or comments?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Larry for putting this together. And then I also wondered whether we wanted to make some kind of effort to approach the governor's office to see if we can get those appointments, or whether it's just kind of a non-starter.
I don't have a lot to say about that. Probably, Jane, you might. Alex Crowley, if he was here, might have more experience with that. The time I've been on the board, those seats have never been filled. I've just always heard that the governor never appoints anyone. To the extent that the governor is aware that an appointment could be made, I would assume they're aware. But that's a good question. Jane or Larry, do you have anything to add about that? Or really, yeah.
I don't have insight. I'll see what Larry says. I'll just say that I'd be happy to ask the other UEAs about this at our next quarterly meeting. Larry, do you have more context?
The context I would provide is it may also just come down to applications. So there's often times when the state will have any number of appointments that are open and kind of passively wait for applications to come in from the area or recommendations. So it might be a matter of recruiting someone specifically to apply and then also making contact with the governor's office to make it kind of tie it up in a bow for them. Because otherwise, even if we just suggest it without a particular person in mind, the governor does a lot for the state, and I just don't imagine this is going to float to the top of their priority list as under normal circumstances, unless we make it easy for them.
Okay, so Jane, if you want to ask the other BUEAs how they, the UEAs how they handle that, that would be great, and maybe let us know what you find out there. And
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
Yeah, Mary, it's a great question. I suppose the one seat is a state legislator. You know, who knows if they have time? That's very specific people. But the other one could be. A representative of the corporation could be someone. So yeah, thank you, Jane. Thanks for the question, Mary. Anyone else? Okay, well, I'm not seeing anyone. This is just really a comment period. We're not voting today. So if you get off this meeting and think of something later, please email Jane. And we'll make sure that's included. And thank you again, Larry, for your work on this. It is really great and feels very reassuring to have these updated by a professional such as yourself. So we will look forward to seeing this and with you again in April. Okay, so what's next? The historic facade grant application for the overlook. I think that's you, Jane.
This will be Connor, actually,
Okay.
who has joined us from Housing and Neighborhood Development. He is our historic preservation specialist, I think is his title. And I was going to, oh, it's not going to work. Pull up. Can you see the image here?
No, we see the actual grant application form.
Okay, I'm going to stop share and then
Yep.
show you Google image of the property because I feel like that
Yep.
Jane, I have a short presentation that shows a lot of photos of the various elevations of the building.
Okay, great.
Okay, I'm gonna do that right now. Then let me share.
Thanks, that's perfect.
Can you guys see that?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right. So this is the building in question. It's in the Maple Heights neighborhood, which is a conservation district. So this is the old Godsey cabinet shop. It's a single-story wood frame building with a metal roof. It was built in 1932, and it was built originally as a repair shop. I don't know if it was a cabinet shop in 1932, but it was some sort of maybe auto repair or something like that was its function. It was bought in 2019 by the Center for Sustainable Living, and their plan is to convert it into like a neighborhood community center.
Connor, I think we lost your audio.
22,000. That's the bid they got to do the work, and the amount they're going to request from you guys is the full 10,000. But just let me walk you through the project here. This is the north elevation, the front of the building. What they're going to be doing to essentially not just this side, which is the facade that faces 12th Street, but also the east and west elevations as well, is they're going to be removing the insul brick siding. So you can see it looks kind of like brick on the outside there. And what insul brick is a kind of like a faux brick made of like asphalt or tar paper. They're going to be removing that layer, and then they're going to be installing some subsiding with insulation. So they're going to have some subsiding underneath there, insulate the wall, and then they're going to side over it with I call it car siding or barn siding, but it's vertical shiplap 1x6.
Connor, I think your audio is in and out. You might need to restate whatever you were in the middle of.
They're going to be patching this horrible metal roof, just patching it where it's leaking. They're going to be replacing windows here on the south elevation. There's a few windows on the building that are broken and not really viable, and they're going to be replacing those with new windows. So here's just some other shots of the building there. And here's a rendering of what they hope it's going to look like. If you notice, there's kind of a large lighted picture window here that's not currently on the building. That's not in the scope of plans. I think this is what they're going to be looking to do in the future. But really what they're going to be doing with this facade grant request is cleaning up that siding, installing some subsiding and insulation, putting new siding on there, patching the roof, replacing a few windows. So that's it. That's the whole project. So the bid they got was 22,000, and again they're asking for 10,000 from the BUEA. So I'll stop sharing here and take any questions if you guys have them.
Are there questions for Connor from the board?
So I've got a question. So with respect to the facade grants, Do you know how much the sort of front of the building portion is of the total?
I do not. The bid from their contractor isn't broken down per elevation per facade.
Okay.
Just as comment, I'm familiar with the building. I became aware of it when they were first looking to buy it, and yeah, you know, it's kind of your classic historic tar paper shack, but is sturdily built. Definitely fits in with the neighborhood, and I'm totally in favor of funding this.
Can I ask a question, Karen?
Yeah, please.
Scott, I'm wondering if you were kind of getting at the fact that I think this grant program can cover 2 facades, right? And they're doing the whole building. So Connor, is the quote broken down properly to make sure that the VEA is funding the contribution for 2 facades, that they're matching 2
Yeah,
worth of work, I guess?
right. No, I know that's what Scott was hinting at there at that question, and it's a good one because we want to make sure that what we're funding is a facade, so a street-facing facade up to 2. So the bid unfortunately isn't broken down, but when I'm looking at the bid and seeing what's going on here, the gutters and the leaking roof portion are on the west facade here, so I would call that a street facing facade. This is where we're going to be getting gutters, and I think the roof is around here. So it's going to be this facade and this facade that they're getting all new siding.
So Connor, we don't see your screen anymore.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't
That's
share
okay.
it. I'm looking at it, so it's just,
Yeah, that's fine.
You got to see it, right? All right, let me do this again. Thank you for letting me know. Okay, so this is the northwest elevation, the primary elevation. This is what you're seeing from 12th Street. And this is where the majority of the work is happening here. It's these 2 facades that are getting completely re-sided, the new gutters here, and I assume gutters here because they definitely need them. And then the hole in the roof is actually around here that they're going to need to patch up and fix. The windows weren't in the bid that I got, so I don't think they're part of the estimate. I added that because that's something that they communicated to me later that was going on, but I think they might have just told me that because for historic preservation, considerations, because it's in the Maple Heights Conservation District. So those windows are on the south elevation, which is here. So those aren't a street facing elevation. Those shouldn't be funded or covered by this grant. So if
They should not be, the windows should not be covered by this grant?
No, because they're not on a street facing facade. So if that's
Okay.
part of the bid, then that shouldn't, but yeah, be
Well,
included.
I sort of think, I don't know what Karen thinks, but I sort of think we should put the entire complete bid together and then try to separate out whether it's through a percentage or through actual receipts for these 2 sides. And then I think the total will probably come out where your proposal is, but I think we probably need to see that detail.
Yeah, I was looking at the application here and it's not obvious to me either because they even mention the windows in the project description. So we may just need some clarity around that, around the bid. And I wonder too, so did they get more than one bid or just the one?
I don't know. I don't know that answer to that question. I haven't seen more than one bid.
Okay. Do we usually ask for more than one, Jane?
On the project, I would note though, I think they answered no to the contractor being in the enterprise zone, but I think the contractor is actually a zone business. So for that reason, I would support this, but defer to the group if they want to see additional bids.
Do we usually ask for more than one bid? I didn't hear your answer to that.
I can answer that. In my experience, I'm not involved, or that's not stated on the application, so it's not something we look at.
Okay. So maybe we just need a little more clarity on what's included in the 22,000 in terms of which facades, windows, et cetera. Is that right?
That was my only question, and I think that just sort of stems from previous in our previous allotments, in previous projects, just what exactly they're looking to have funded. So that, I really think that that's a great a great resource to have in that neighborhood. I think it'd be fantastic. So I'm looking forward to that being there, and I don't want to stop or delay any types of things, but it's just a question of what exactly. Based on the stipulations of the grant proposal we're paying for. That's all.
So if you could get that information, Connor, I suppose if we wanted to confirm that it was the two facades, we could, if we knew that, we could probably entertain a motion on this if we felt comfortable, right? I'm looking at you, Jane, and other folks. Yeah, and so, yeah, I'm just not sure that we can vote on it. Short of like taking a vote, like we would approve it as long as it's only for two facades. But if it turns out to be not, if it's more than two facades, we wouldn't approve it. But that's a little.
Yeah. Larry, could they construct a motion so that it was funding for up to two facades within the parameters of the grant program? So it would not exceed the amount listed on this application.
Yes.
How work to proceed? How would you feel about that, Karin and group?
I think that would be good. Yeah, because actually now I'm looking at this proposal from Max E. Smith, and he says, he talks about all three sides in the 22,000 or even four. So yeah, I don't know if it's super clear. Sorry, just throwing that in. It's at the very end of the packet.
Oh.
I'm kind of curious how this bidding process works.
That's up to the.
Is this sent out to different contractors or in the paper or what?
No, it's up to the applicant, from what I understand, how they want to bid that out, who they want to bid it out to.
Okay, so it's the applicant itself then. There's been set. Okay.
Jackie, I'm not sure if I heard your last comment, Jackie.
It's up to the applicant to put out the bids themselves, find out the bidders themselves. That's right. That's the way I understand Connor.
Yeah, and that's because the BUEA is not subject to the city's rules about soliciting bids or any of the associated rules with wages, or they're just, because it's a private project and the BUEA is an independent nonprofit that's granting. It's just a completely separate process.
Yeah, I think it's a.
I just never was aware of it, so I'm just curious. Sorry, Karen.
Yeah. No, I like these questions.
Mm-hmm. So if we could get clarity, Connor, I think it looks pretty clear on page 8 of the packet that this bid of $22,000 is for 3 facades: the north, the east, and the west.
Right, and the west would be, or the east facade would be the problematic one, I believe. Right, okay. That's what you guys don't want to fund. Is that true?
We just do, Jane, can you confirm? We just do the street facing facades? So 2 on a corner?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay,
and so I think we don't do more than 2, or we haven't done more than 2 in the past.
Well, technically, this isn't a corner lot. It's not intersected by 2 streets. It's only on 12th Street. So it really only has one street facing facade, which would be the north elevation.
Okay, so just to clarify, Jane, is it street facing facades or is it up to 2 facades? Doesn't matter if they're street facing.
I can't conjure which project right now, but I thought we had funded a facade on an alleyway before. So I'm wondering, Connor, I don't know how you're feeling about this at this point, but I'm wondering if we should do a little recon and then bring it back.
I think that would be helpful. And also, I don't have at my easy disposal here, I don't know if anyone else does, the actual facade grant program guidelines. Do we have
That's what
those?
I was going to look at. That's what I was going to look at next, is read that text and see exactly what does it specify.
Okay. So that would be good. And also in looking at this application form, I'm not sure that there's necessarily any place on here where they have to say we're doing this number of facades. So we might want to also update, once you review that, you might want to update this application form so that when we do another one of these, we have all that. We're constantly getting better. It's in the category of constant improvement for us.
Continuous,
so thank you.
Continuous improvement, right?
Yeah, so if it's okay with everyone, we'll just continue this approval process to the April meeting. Does that work for I don't know what that does to the project. I'm sure they want to start tomorrow, but.
I don't know. And I invited them to come to the meeting today and they weren't able to do so. So I didn't sense any sort of urgency from them as far as they got people waiting around to start.
Okay.
But they are not able to start work and then apply for the grant, right? Or are they? Oh, we lost your audio. We lost you. Oh, it looks like a good answer too.
I think it's just going in and out. No, we can't hear him. It does say on the application that this estimated construction start date is March and the completion date is April. So it sounds like they want to jump on this unless they just put that on there.
I don't know how the board would feel, but I personally would, because they came to us in February with this proposal. And we feel generally good about the project, the details on the funding level and the number of facades. I think the board, if they wanted to, would be okay to reimburse even if they start work. But I don't know, Larry, if you have.
I was just going to say these limitations aren't apparent on the website or given notice to the grant applicants. And so typically to put these kind of restrictions on the grant applicants, we would have to clearly give them notice that they're going to be disqualified for something. And so I just don't see those limitations, which gives the board more flexibility in doing what it wants here.
Okay, so so what you're saying, Larry, just for the benefit of everyone here, this is a really good conversation. So I appreciate people sticking with us on this. We're getting way down in the weeds. It sounds like we are not publicizing in our facade grants that it is only for 2 facades. Is that right, Larry?
That's correct.
So
not only that it's not only for 2 facades, but also that you are required to delay your work until the grant is approved.
Okay.
So those are things we'd have to be explicit on.
Okay. So the nice thing is we have a lot of flexibility. The downside is we have no guidance. So we go ahead, Scott, we could entertain a motion to approve it.
I would make a motion at this point, given, our lack of sort of guidance and the fact that they came in February and they're, wanting to, and the budget doesn't seem to be extraordinary. I want to make a motion to approve the application as I see it.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion from Scott and a second from Paul to approve this $10,000 facade grant request from the Center for Sustainable Living, which is a nonprofit organization. Any further comments about this? Questions? I don't see any. Okay, well, given no comments or questions, we could go ahead and take a roll call vote. Jane, if you wouldn't mind.
I will go ahead. Scott,
Yes.
Karen St. John,
Yes.
Mary Morgan,
Yes.
Paul Ash,
Yes.
Jackie Yenna,
Yes.
Kate Rosenbarger,
Yes.
and Tracy Gates.
Yes.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you, everybody, for working through that. It looks like a great project, and we now know that we probably need to review our application and our publicity of the facade grants to clarify what we think is a rule, but actually was never, maybe never a rule, maybe it was. So Jane, if you could take that under your, put that on your to-do list, which is, I know, very long, that would be great.
Yeah, I would just say that Connor and I have already been, well, Connor's been working on this already and we've been talking about it. So we'll just fast track it and maybe we could even review them at the next meeting. We'll see.
Great. Yep. And I do want to thank Connor for your time. That was a really great presentation. So thank you very much. We're excited about the project. Great. Okay. So moving on to unfinished business is the signers on accounts. This would be on checking accounts, BUEA checking accounts. Jane, if you want to just update us on that.
Sure. I sort of updated you earlier this week and we haven't concluded the process of updating signers. I'm waiting to hear back from 2 of the banks about the steps that we need to take. So I just wanted to acknowledge that this is in process and I expect us to have it wrapped up by the next meeting. And I think that's it. Anything else I should communicate on that? Okay.
Yeah, thank you for doing that. Really appreciate you, your leadership on getting that done. So that'll be good to get that all buttoned up.
Yeah.
Okay. So that is through the agenda items, just general discussion, anything that anyone else wants to bring up? Okay, I don't see anything. It's 12:40. This could be a record short BUEA meeting. I feel like we're getting out 45 minutes early myself. I want to thank everyone for attending today. Thank you for your volunteer service. And for those of you who are doing this professionally, thank you for your diligent work. We really, really appreciate it. So with that said, we can go ahead and adjourn the meeting. I don't think we really need to take a vote to adjourn. I think we can just say thank you and enjoy the rest of your week.